This is Paul. Yeah. I was reading this dictionary. Yeah. And they have what's called the birthplace, the city, state, and or country of one's birth. Yes. And then there's the birthright, the privilege granted by virtue of birth, especially to the firstborn. Yes. And then the birthstone, a gemstone that represents the month in which one was born. Yes. I'm going to need to know the birthplace of every employee of every government that has signed on to the International Hague of International Service Process. Were they all born in those nations where their government is? Let's say you're a government employee and you were born in another nation. And for some reason you have all this documentation that you're from another country, but did you naturalize yourself to be an employee of another government? I'm just going to need to know the actual birthplace of every employee in every city, every county, every state, the federal government, and every government that has signed on to the International Hague of Service of Child Support Services. Now, in some nations, the firstborn has very significant importance, probably in Armenia. If you had a firstborn son, a male that was firstborn, that would have a lot to say about what happens to the family's assets. Now in America, okay, with male and female, everything's equal, but I was the firstborn grandson, yes, of my grandmother that had passed away last year, and I had sent an email about, do you know where my dead grandmother is? Now, I was the firstborn son of my deceased father, Paul Douglas Budnick, and my soon-to-be imprisoned mother, Sandra Lee Taylor. Yes. And I was thinking that I have 5 sons. In fact, I know I do. I was there at the time of their births. And I'd like to talk to them. Now, as difficult as it might seem to believe, if you're from someplace other than, well, the nation where you work in, pooch, there's a question of, well, how did you get there? Let's say you're an inmate in an insane asylum and you're actually a clone or a fish that was made from some sort of equipment. Were you born in Armenia, or were you one of these insane clones that they have in the asylum? I would think that the actual place of birth, the country that you were born in, means that you have to be an actual person that was born in a nation to be able to be an employee of a government. Yes. Now, let's say you decided to use fish clones and various other types of clones that were not actually born of actual human parents, that were actual citizens of any and all nations. Yes! I would think that that would violate the employment contracts of every nation of the world. Oh, I'm sorry. Now, when you go through the inmates of every prison, every hospital, and every insane asylum, I'd like to know, were they born of actual citizens of a nation, or were they fish twins or clones or some sort of android? Because let's say you had in prison a large number of fish that were not actually birthed through that natural process of human birthing. They were actually a clone of another person because you decided to make a test tube baby. Yes, they might have the genetics of their parents, but were they birthed out of the same vagina as the citizens of other nations? Now, when you start talking about making clones from ovaries and sperm, pooch, and manufacturing large numbers of lookalikes, somehow I don't think vaginas were birthing 3 to 5 children each, because I would have heard about that. Now, let's say that I have seen quite a few clones in this area. that look like each other, but I have a difficult time believing they were birthed out of the same vagina at the same moment. Yeah. No. Somebody was doing some test tube babies that look exactly like the actual baby that was born from the vagina of the woman. But if your birthplace is not the vagina that you came out of, I'm thinking. Okay, let me explain it to you. Okay, let's say you have 5 twins, one woman and one baby that was birthed out of the vagina. Yeah, that would be the birthplace. Right. Because babies have to come out of vaginas one at a time. Yes. But lo and behold, 5 years later, you find out that there's 5 lookalikes. Now, something happened where that woman did not give birth to all 5 of those babies. Yes! Now, I'm going to need a large number of attorneys that understand international law in other nations that when they find any employee of any government that was not birthed at the birthplace from the vagina of the actual mother of the government's employee, I'm going to sue all the governments that thought that they would just make clones of all their employees using any sort of cloning technology. Ciao! Now, I'm starting a little secret sisterhood called the Flamboyant Women of Those That Are Queens. There might be some other nations that know about the yeast gases in those that were not birthed from the same vagina. I'm going to need the birthstones of every volunteer. I'm thinking of designing a large number of jewelry. Let's say you had your sash on, your tiara, but you like your birthstone. Po. You were born on a certain month, were you? Did you come out of a certain vagina? Was there a birthplace that happened at? Yes!